Hello, everyone, and welcome. We're going to get started. Thank you for joining us today for another Compliance Unlocked episode. Today, we'll be focusing on a very interesting topic. We're going to be talking about protecting Google Workspace, ensuring business continuity with CloudM Backup. We are very excited to share some crucial insights into a topic that is becoming increasingly day by day and very vital for all organizations using Google Workspace: data protection and business continuity. My name is Kevin Barahona, and I'll be your host for today's session. I am joined by a terrific team who will be guiding us through the different aspects of CloudM Backup. We have Ernesto Rivas from Cloudasta, our Google Workspace solution expert, who will delve into the real-world threats to your data and debunk some of the common myths around Google Workspace and cloud security, and also provide you with actionable steps to protect your data, your Google Workspace data, from critical attacks. We also have Owen McCarthy, Product Enablement Lead from CloudM, who will offer a deep dive into the technical capabilities and features of the CloudM Backup platform. This said, our goal today is to help you understand how CloudM Backup can act as your essential safety net for full data governance. We also want to help you understand the key difference between Google Vault, which was the past episode, and Backup, which is a real dedicated backup solution. Without further ado, Ernesto, please go ahead and walk us through this awesome presentation.
Thank you for the introduction, Kevin. Nice to meet you guys. Thanks for joining. We have a good team here, and we are hoping to get the best out of this session. So let's get started with this. This is going to be a way for us to ensure business continuity using CloudM Backup as a solution for archiving information. Just to give some details about the actual facts on this, usually this is pretty much brand new information surfaced in 2024, 2025, and basically it is something that mentions the vulnerabilities and the different type of attacks companies are actually constantly in danger of encountering. We will see some of these examples with real life scenarios a little bit more ahead, but usually most of these attacks are from insider incidents. So this is a way for us to try to have the tools and to have the enablements to allow us to reduce this and to pretty much to have a secure environment into our workspace accounts. So pretty much the Google has a shared responsibility model. Google's first responsibility is to have security of the cloud, meaning that all of the different services that you use for Google, all of the applications and all of the different features are secure, but you as the admin or as the end user, it is your final responsibility to have a way to protect the information what is actually in the cloud. Meaning that tools like CloudM Backup and any other information for in this case backup information, or in this case any other addition to the services, is considered as a way for you to pretty much enhance the security into your accounts. So what are some of the common myths? This is the most frequent one. Google Vault is not the same as backup. Google Vault is a tool that is going to allow you to archive and discover information, usually for legal matters. As we discussed in the first session, you go ahead and perform certain type of actions, and you can get the information that you are looking for. However, that is not an actual backup tool. And another myth, which is a pretty common one, is to think that the regular standard security by Google, which is 30 days after the email or file is deleted, and plus the 25 days an admin has from the admin console to restore this, it is a way to back up the information. And somehow it is, because you have the tool, you have a way to reactivate this. However, if somebody is not paying attention to this, basically you will be leaving data that could be deleted and nobody is going to be able to restore. We will see in the demo that tools like this will allow us to pretty much set and forget, meaning that we configure something and then we are always sure that this setting is going to be saved, and we will not have to be constantly going there to pretty much create certain different type of rules. We will have to create it once, and this rule is going to apply for all of the users and all of the information we're trying to back up. Okay, so the three live scenarios, the most frequent one is the human error. So when this happens, our user deletes something by mistake, thinking that this is something that will not have like a specific problem. But then after a few days, it's discovered that the user or the organization really needs to use these sort of details. So this scenario is basically somebody that deletes a shared drive or folder or a file, and this goes unnoticed. And after 35 days or more, somebody is trying to access to this information. Surprise, we cannot access. So this will be the first pretty much human error, like the first threat that most organizations are actually pretty much facing. The second one is something pretty sad, which is the disgruntled employees, meaning that somebody leaves the company, they are angry, they are pretty much want to cause harm into the company. They go, they delete information. Maybe this person was an admin, had certain type of access, so he starts deleting the information. And again, after a few days, you want to check the information. Google standard restoration policies already passed. There is no way for you to restore the information, and pretty much you will be losing data and you will not be able to access. And the third one is a ransomware. A ransomware, maybe you don't have, in this case, an antivirus in your computer, or somebody sends you a link, or you download something, and this causes the installation of a software that causes, in this case, like a phishing attack. Then this could lead to potential data loss that is going to be reflecting into your not being able to access or verify certain type of information. And just before we start with the actual demo, there are 5 different key features for this backup module. So first of all, it is a way for us to have like a centralized dashboard, meaning that we will have a way to control and check what information is being backed up. Then we will also have the options to have a full or a granular restoration, meaning that we can just select a specific file or a specific user to restore the information, or we can have a set different of details that we want to restore, so we can have the information available for us. Then this is going to be a tool that is going to apply for active employees data, meaning that your employees on your regular day-to-day, you can have these rules apply so that you can make sure that they can be saving information, and you can then restore this information in case this is really needed. And also the security inside of these in the cloud, which basically this is encrypted using a AES 256 encryption level. So this is something that is going to be fully compliance with the regulatory services and the mandatory services out there. So you will not have to worry about where your data is located or what's happening with your data. Actually, this is going to be a way for you to back up the information and to avoid and to be fully compliant, instead of just downloading something, for example, a file, and download the file into your computer, which we could say it's kind of secure depending on your actual security use on your computer. Then you are using instead an encryption level that is going to guarantee that this is not going to be the case, and you will not be losing, or nobody is going to be accessing the data. And one of the most important things is that the full visibility, meaning that all of the details, all of the settings that you save are going to be pretty much be able to audit, so that you can check what's going on and who has done certain actions into the actual services. So without further ado, I will leave Owen with the part of the demo. And after Owen, we will continue in this presentation for some of the next steps. So go ahead, Owen.
Okay, just allow me to share my screen first. So Owen is my name, and I'm representing CloudM today. I'm a product expert, currently in the role of product enablement lead. I lead training our partners and enabling our partners and internal staff alike with all of their product knowledge needs. So today I'm going to show you what CloudM Backup looks like, and how it's easily configured to perform backups, restorations, and post backup and restoration actions such as purging the data in the backup storage bucket once a user is deleted. So it's important first to understand where CloudM Backup resides. It resides in the CloudM SaaS application. Now, the CloudM SaaS application is a Google Workspace marketplace application that's installed to a Google Workspace, and it syncs directly with the directory of the Google Workspace. So we have all of the users, the org units within which they sit, and the groups that they're members of. And of course, this particular information is then synced with CloudM, and you get to see that information within CloudM as it is in Google Workspace. It's important to know that with CloudM as an application itself, at the base level, you get some extra benefits as is. We have certain features for users, for example, for user management in the Actions menu, where we can manage delegation for users' mailboxes. We can manage users out of office messages. These particular features aren't available within Google Workspace as is, but these are just nice to have features in CloudM at the very base level. Some additional features, we have CloudM Smart Teams. Now, Smart Teams is a CloudM feature that allows you to unlock the capabilities of your groups in the automations available within CloudM. It's really important to know that your groups are synced from Google Workspace, and whether they're active or dynamic groups. But using these groups in any of your automations, including backup, such as assigning backup policies to sets of users within your OU, assigning those out requires OUs or Smart Teams. So essentially, our CloudM directory option for Smart Teams allows you to unlock those groups to perform automations at that level. I'll just show you some additional features here. We also have external contact management and smart contacts. Smart contacts are dynamic contact labels that can be assigned out to different users within your business. The members of the list or the contacts within the lists can be customized by dynamic searches. So next, we'll just move on to backup and show you how it works. I think it's really important to cover org units and smart teams before we start talking about backup, because it allows you to manage the assignments. So in backup, the most important and first part is that we have a bring your own storage model. We support two platforms, Google Workspace or Google Cloud Storage in Google Cloud Platform, or AWS storage. And for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm just going to use an existing GCP storage bucket. The information that's required here is actually well documented in our knowledge base. It tells you exactly how to get the information that you need, but essentially you need a service account, a bucket, and its bucket name, and encryption is optional. Now, encryption is performed at rest if you're performing backups with encryption keys. Just going to click cancel here. Essentially, it allows you to test the connection, to know that that storage bucket is connected and successful and able to start your backups. And at that storage connection level, you can configure the following settings to be the defaults for your domain. We have a retention period, which is the period by which data is stored within the storage bucket once a user is deleted. Until a user is deleted, essentially their policy controls how long what data is being backed up and how it can be restored. But this retention period here, and the retention period you will see at policy levels also, it's about what happens when a user is deleted. How long do you want to keep data for after a user is deleted? We have backup frequency. This particular option is about Delta backups. As soon as you configure the storage connection and your policies and assign those to your sets of users, we're going to perform what's called an initial backup, and that's going to send all of their active data into the storage bucket. And from that moment on, it's going to perform Delta backups. And these are the syncs that happen for mail, for example, every 20 minutes is by default. But you can increase these times to 40 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, 8 hours, for example. And there's different options for the different available services that we back up. That's another important thing to say. We back up mail, drive, calendar, contacts, and chats for users. And we also back up drive data for shared drives. So backup frequency, you might ask why we would change the frequency from the default or recommended option here. Essentially, the longer period that a backup frequency is set to, the less your costs will be. Those cost savings are actually quite marginal, but when it comes to backup and data and how much data and how much time we're using to back up, those costs matter. Let's say there's different examples for different teams. Let's say a financial document that is updated 20 times in one day by multiple different people. Do we want to back up every version of that? Maybe not. Maybe we want to back it up twice a day rather than 4 times a day. The more times we back up that document, the more actions we're sending to the storage bucket to or from, and the more it's going to cost. And again, these costs are very marginal, but we can actually help with calculating those costs or estimating those costs at the beginning using a specific calculator that we can provide. Another feature is the include/exclude file types, and this is also beneficial to your cost savings. You can choose to include or back up only certain types of files or exclude other types, such as exe, zips, compressed files, any files you think that are not necessary, maybe a bit large to be keeping in a storage bucket. You can make marginal cost savings here also. These are the settings at the default level, the storage configuration. So the next thing what you're going to do is you're going to start being a little bit more granular, and you're going to start creating policies for the different sets of users and shared drives within your organization. And this is where now our test environment is a little bit messy. There's a bit too many here, but I'm just going to use an example one. So we have a user policy here where you can essentially name it and give it a description. And before enabling it, maybe decide what services you're going to back up. Each of the services that we support, by all of the services for primary services for users, mail, drive, calendar, contacts, and chat, you have different prerequisites and different supported features that it's good to read about. But essentially, we back up the important information for those services. So at the policy level, you can then set a specific retention period, backup frequency for each of the data types, and of course the include/exclude file types option. And once you've chosen those, you can enable it to then save. Let's just add an exclusion to then save. And that policy is now ready to be assigned. We can also create policies for shared drives specifically. Very similar, just name it and set your retention period or include/exclude file types options. So once those policies are created, you'll then go about assigning them. And as I've explained, you can assign policies at an org unit or smart team level. Org units for org units, or smart teams to be a little bit more granular, to assign out to different groups. We also have the ability to assign out to shared drives. I'll just give you one simple example because it's as simple as selecting the backup policy that you need to assign and clicking Save Changes. Otherwise, you can inherit the backup policy from its parent, maybe the top level, and that's where it will feed from the storage configuration or default level. Once that policy is assigned, the data will start being backed up immediately for the users within that set of users based on the policy and the settings that you've chosen. The same applies to smart teams. Simply select the policy and enable it. For shared drives, you can select a policy for one or assign the same policy to all. Slightly different to users, but it's still a very simple manner of just selecting the policy and assigning. Now, once user data or shared drive data is being backed up, we can, of course, use the backup status to check that status and see where it's up to. Backup status is sorted by user name, but you have all of the available filters that you would require here. For example, initial backup. And what the status essentially tells you is what's been successful, what's failed, and if failed, why. And also it'll give you a retry option. There's no why for this particular user, but that's not to worry. In most cases, you will see a why. With data backed up, we assume that it's all completed for all users. We can now move on to talking about restoration. And this is something that, Ernesto focused on earlier, which is CloudM Backup and Google Vault, very different things. Vault is an e-discovery tool. It is not a backup tool. It is not an archive tool. It is an e-discovery tool or a litigation tool. It's a very specific thing that allows for the retention of data, of leavers users' data, or active or leavers users' data, to be searched broadly across all users and all data, and to find information and also restore it in a manner. It's really important to know, if you don't already, that Vault data can only be restored by exporting it and then re-importing it. With CloudM Backup, because it's a backup solution, all of the data is backed up, including different versions of data. And that data can be restored immediately back to either the active user themselves or to a different user, such as their manager. So we move on to restoration. And we have two versions of restoration, full restoration and per item restoration. So for full restoration, we can restore all user data for selected users or all data within a range. You can obviously decide which data you're going to restore: mail, drive, calendar, contacts, or chat. There's the ability to restore all data for a whole org unit, a whole smart team or a set of smart teams, all users in the domain, all shared drives, or specifically deleted users. Deleted users are users who have been deleted, but they still have data being retained in the storage bucket that's being configured. I think it's better to look mostly at the features of the itemized restoration because it gives you the full background of how data can be restored. Let's take Adam as an example. And you only see mail, drive, and chat here because contacts and calendars can only be restored via full restoration. But if we look here for itemized restoration, you can select the items that you need to restore for that user. Click Restore, and you have the option to choose who are we restoring to. It's always going to show the active user, unless it's a deleted user, in which case it'll ask you to choose. But you can choose to change this user if you wish, to their manager, or for whatever reason the data is being restored. It depends. We can then choose to include deleted items, specify a label within the restoring user's account so that it can be distinguishable from other data within their already active account. And then you just hit restore and it brings you back brings that data back. For Drive, it's slightly different. You have a view of the whole folder structure that the user has backed up. We're going to select certain files to be restored and choose to restore. In this case, we're seeing mail as well because we've already selected some mail items. But now we see Drive. In Drive, we can specify a folder within the My Drive of the user being restored to. And we choose to preserve file permissions or restore to original file type. So it's important to know, we do backup permissions for files. We also back up every file, but we have to back them up in the Google Cloud Storage as Microsoft files. So if Google Docs, Sheets, presentations exist in the user's account, we're going to actually back them up as Microsoft file types. But we can restore them back to their original by enabling this. The reason we have preserve off by default, preserve file permissions off by default, is because there's many reasons why people restore files. Maybe we don't want to share them back out to the original sharees because we're investigating the file, for example. Or restore to original file type, which is recommended because we want that original file type essentially to be able to read it and see what it originally looked like. One final option on the itemized restoration is that we can select a specific file, view the backup history, and in here you will see different versions of the file, typically if there are multiple changes to files, etc. We have the ability to restore or to download. So we can perform a local download of the file. Now, any restorations that we perform, there is a restoration status, and that gives you everything that you need to know for those. If successful, they're successful. If they're failed, why? And if they failed, why? We have options to retry the restorations. So all of the information is at your fingertips here. With backup and restoration status covered, I'll just show you the backup dashboard, which gives you a nice colorful image of the stats that you require for your backups and restorations. And that information can be exported to PDF. The final thing to cover is purge backups. And purge backups is the option to essentially delete the data for specific users within the backup storage bucket. If, for example, they've gone beyond their retention period or the retention period that you wanted to have in place for those users. Maybe they were just test users. Maybe they're there by accident. Whatever the case, you have the ability to manually purge that data from the backup in order to save money and save that space in your backup storage bucket. One final thing to cover about backup and CloudM as a service itself is the logs. You can check the logs for any particular information or actions happening within your CloudM environment. That data can be searched. Operation type, you could choose any of the backup options, for example, to investigate issues in backup. That particular information can also be turned into log notifications, whereby you can send information to your administrators about specific actions that may need attention by certain people. And that covers everything in backup. So I'd like to just hand it back over to Ernesto. We'll also take any questions that you might have.
So right now we back up our current users through the Cloudasta email backup. So this is more encompassing, or is that in conjunction with doing that?
I can answer that question. Thank you, Alexander. So the Cloudasta email migration tool it has many use cases, but the purpose of archiving emails is just to have a repository, as I like to call it, of emails, like email archival. Like you might dedicate a specific email archival for any offboarding processes to send emails that way. Whereas the CloudM Backup solution, it's encompassing the whole Google Workspace suite of services and applications. So the key differences between one and another is the email migration tool. It's basically a migration tool that will allow you to migrate data up until a certain period of time, put it on a dedicated mailbox per se, and the CloudM Backup solution, it's giving you an actual backup that you can specify.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Yep.
Excellent. Just to continue on this same question that Alexander had, this is pretty much one of the best practices that we have. Part of these modules are following this 3-to-1 rule, which basically is to have a few copies of your files. They recommend 3. Widely in the industry, they recommend is to have at least 3 copies of files, 2 different type of media files, and also offsite backup. This means that, for example, Google Workspace as a whole is a cloud service that you can have information. That's going to be like their first, we could say, mechanism of backing up the information with standard Google policies and regulations. And then you have tools like backup that will step in and can allow you to control and provide even more time where you can restore and perform these actions for the users. So it's going to be, for the first recommendation, this module of 3-to-1 rule as far as the backup data. Then another one, this is going to be for you to test, not like every day, but for example, you have like every single quarter, maybe you can do a test to perform to verify the information that is backed up. We are aware that you have policies that are in place automatically. As Owen showed us, there is a way for us to have this Delta backup that can be constantly backed up in the background. However, it is always for you good to go ahead and check what's the information that is actually being backed up. And as he explained at the end, the good thing is that all of these actions can have like alerts, meaning that if you have a log that you want to keep an eye on when an action is being performed, then you can have this alert, this notification, that you can pretty much be fully covered and check all of the details that users are doing or how the information is being backed up. We will be sharing this site with you so that you can have more details on this. And this site also include a hyperlink for you to schedule a follow-up call with us. We can then just pretty much have like a real life scenario with you, maybe with your specific company. We can show you and explain to you how we can apply backup and other tools that we have available so that you can pretty much secure your organization. So we will send you this so that you can just pretty much book a session with Kevin and I. So
Okay.
that's it for today's session. I don't know if you have any other questions, Alexander, anything that you would like to cover.
No, but there is going to be a Gemini transcript of this, right? I believe.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
We will send that as well to you, along with the recording of the session.
Okay, that's great because I know Jan had to step out. He had to deal with one of our execs, so just for him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
not a
no,
problem.
absolutely. We're gonna be shooting the recording and the Gemini transcript in the following day or two. So
Okay.
team, thank you for joining again. Great session. Owen, thank you for your help. Ernesto, thank you as always. And stay tuned, more to come, and we'll be shooting the recap.